Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen that are present with us physically and also on the live stream. So welcome to the day 4 of debating session of MUSA General Elections 2024. Before I proceed to the introduction of the candidates, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Aaron. I'm the returning officer of MUSA General Elections 2024. And here with us today is the first debating session of candidates, and they are Naomi and Dion from Equitas. So without further ado, let's listen to the opening statement where they'll introduce themselves and also their manifesto.
Hello. Okay. Good afternoon to everyone here physically and to those watching online. My name is Dion. I'm year 1, Sem 2, studying under School of Arts and Social Sciences. And I'm here with my running partner, Naomi.
Hi everyone, I am a year 2 Sem 1 student, also from the School of Arts and Social Sciences. We are pleased to be running for the head of welfare for the 2025 academic year. I am currently the president of the Monash University Volunteering Program, which has afforded me the opportunity to run a large committee and engage thoughtfully with our student population and the wider community.
So my experiences include the current position as publicity committee.
We would like to increase collaborations with other schools and external organizations. So facilitating collaboration with MUSA engagement, counseling services, other clubs and societies, as well as partnering with reputable organizations for our campaigns and events.
So our third point is to continue implementing effective welfare protocols by improving the student lounge and MUSA offices, as well as promoting student support beyond on-campus efforts, which includes developing community-specific shared digital spaces. And our final point is to increase avenues of feedback and channels of communication along with participation rates. Thank you.
All right, so now I'd like to invite the current head of welfare, Shirley and Sylvia, to the podium to ask questions to the candidates. Please give them a round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sylvia, and my partner here is Shirley. We are the welfare officers for 2024. And do you want to start?
Okay, and we will start with our questions first for the Dion and Naomi. So the first question that we were thinking of, since there were various available positions, and what motivated you to run for welfare officers, and how are you suitable for the position?
Okay, so I will answer first. I think our reasons will probably be different based on our experiences. So personally for me, working with the volunteer program has been a really good experience. And I believe that the core of both the Monash volunteering program and welfare are very similar. It is about helping people. It's just that with welfare, we're looking at the student population, and with the volunteering program, we were looking at externally marginalized communities. My passion is toward helping others. I hope to get into humanitarian work, and so this was something that was very in line with what I would like to do. To answer your question about what equips me for the position, I believe with MUVP, having been the head has afforded me a really good opportunity in learning how to deal with large committees. I think as a division with welfare and women's under welfare officers, we have a really large committee, and I think having that experience has really helped me in effective delegation, in communication, and transparency throughout. So that would be mine. And Dion?
So mine is that I'm currently in the publicity subcommittee of MUSA Welfare, and I have to say that for the past year, that these 2 semesters have been a joy and a pleasure to work with my fellow committee members, not just them, but also as a welfare committee in general. And with the motivation and inspiration from the heads of welfare and the committee members' encouragement, it inspired me and motivated me to kind of take on running for head of welfare. And I believe that working not only in welfare, but also in large committees like Isaac Malaysia, equips me to work together with Naomi and kind of be qualified for this position.
Okay. We'll go to the second question regarding your experiences in Monash itself. So we wanted to ask if there's any welfare-related hardships that you can share and perhaps relate to why what you are looking to achieve as welfare officers.
So for your first point in the question, if there are any welfare hardships that I've went through, I feel like it's quite similar and relatable to a majority of Monash students as well, just with the balance of not only academic workload with the assignments and whatnot, but also with external curriculars like clubs, societies, MUSA roles as well. I'm not only just studying for communications and MUSA welfare, but I also did not only Isaac Malaysia, but in several clubs like dance clubs and whatnot. So finding that key balance is always a struggle and a continuous work that I feel like all Monash students will have. And so I believe that the current welfare events helps to aid with that kind of struggle and that we're able to improve more on that. And Naomi, anything to say? No, that's it.
Okay, can you elaborate on how you would improve on our previous initiatives? We just want to know more about your plans if you do get elected.
Okay, so as we kind of outlined in our manifesto earlier, we have various plans, and Dion's experience being part of welfare has helped us create these improvements that we'd like to implement. So a lot of them surround welfare campaigns for our students, taking a more holistic approach, a more practical approach. For example, with our financial literacy workshops, it's something that students at this age statistically struggle with, and it's really important, and I think would affect their life not just on campus but outside campus as well, and we hope to implement those kinds of initiatives. We'd also like to encourage collaboration with outside organizations or other clubs that can help spread this awareness of welfare throughout Monash and have a wider reach.
On your manifesto, you wrote something about welfare service visibility. Can you elaborate on your manifesto on this welfare service, please?
Okay, so in terms of visibility, we have 4 points that we would like to go through to increase visibility. So one of them would be in the sense of, for example, collecting snack packs, so visibility on campus. Currently, it's done at the student lounge, and I think it would really benefit to have the collection of the welfare packs happening in a wider location at Monash, for example, the Rock, where students are coming and going. So they're actually physically seeing welfare initiatives a little bit more. So that would be one. In terms of visibility, we'd also want to collaborate. So for example, with school reps, they have a very good reach within their particular schools. So actually engaging with the representatives to share our initiatives, whether that be in connection to counseling services, etc., would be another way to engage with them. Thirdly, we'd like to focus on target audiences. So when we're going for a particular event, we would really like to target specific audiences to gain a higher participation. So for example, we would like to have a charity run to encourage physical well-being, and part of that would mean targeting athletic clubs at Monash, for example, to gain that attention a little bit more.
And so doing all of these things, like having our snack pack collection in a wider area and increase in collaboration with other schools while having this event, having a feedback form for the participants allows us to kind of gauge their reaction and further improve on what to do next.
Okay. Okay, so you mentioned on your manifesto, another point of your manifesto was that you mentioned about your welfare campaigns, which I believe you mentioned a bit like your actions that you plan to take if you get elected. Can you elaborate more on and be a bit more specific on how you're gonna do these plans?
Sorry, could you just clarify what you would like me to elaborate on?
Like welfare campaigns you mentioned in your manifesto.
Yeah. So that would be a lot of the events that we're planning to hold and initiatives. So one of the new things we'd like to implement would be our quarterly well-being pamphlet. So this would include a lot of helpful information to students for their well-being, whether that be nutrition, whether that be safety, just updates on Monash throughout the semester as well. So that would be one thing, as well as hallmark giveaways such as Code Red. We would want to continue upholding those initiatives for students because they've been very popular, as well as doing ones around exam seasons. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so like what we mentioned with the financial literacy, self-defense workshops, educational talks, all of this, we consider that it contributes to the overall welfare of students, with it being different aspects of welfare, that we think that we can really help a diversity and a good range of amount of Monash students as well, yeah.
Okay. Another question that we have is, as welfare officers, you would be dealing with many parties. So this includes students, Monash staff, OSH committee, student life, and do you have any specific plans that you want to implement in terms of these communications? Because you would be dealing with a number of stakeholders which all holds different agendas. Do you have any plans regarding these things?
I think our main objective would be throughout our committee itself to be well organized. I think that's the best way or the best starting point in communicating with many different bodies. So again, my experience with MUVP has been with external NGOs and organizations, with student life, with our peers at MUSA, and much more. So similarly with welfare, we'll be engaging with lots of different parties, and I think clear communication within the committee is the best way to start. So organizing ourselves in a way that we know who is communicating with what parties. That's the first thing that we would do.
Yeah, but you do notice that as welfare officers, you would be mainly communicating with these Monash staff because each committees have their own workload, obviously. And in terms of external parties, you may not be able to control, right, their agendas because like there's tons of departments here, there's tons of clubs here. How do you plan going forward with that? Is there any specific plans you have for that?
In communicating with committees at Monash?
With different stakeholders, actually, clubs, either clubs or Monash staff, students, even because we're also dealing with marginalized communities. Those things.
So obviously, the way that we would want to communicate with everyone would be aligned to the specific goals. For example, when we're dealing with committees, it would be a very different approach to dealing with marginalized communities. So taking those specific approach and taking time to understand what aligns with them is what would make our communication clearer. So for example, with students and marginalized communities, it would be a much more sensitive approach depending on their concerns and what they're coming to us for. Collaborations would be handled in a specific way, as well as the committees that will then be handled in a separate way as well.
Okay, do you have anything?
Never mind, sorry.
Okay. As welfare officers, you would be in charge of the student facilities like the student lounge, as you're aware. How do you plan to improve them, and how are you going to balance your job scopes in lounge and welfare events?
So for this, it's there are many protocols that we can implement, whether it be big or small. So for example, just the overall maintenance and cleanliness of both student lounge and the MUSA offices, with kind of control with the amount of clutter that each of the department has, the amount of things that they can put at which spots, the pantry as well, whether or not it is properly used, and also proper signage around the area, not for both student lounge and MUSA offices, signs that allows the overall Monash students, for example, if they want to come and collect merch, they can easily navigate as to which office that they should go to collect it without having to kind of cause a few miscommunications along the way, or things like small rules here and there with signs to kind of further remind students who are using the student lounge, or remind the MUSA community when they're using the student office as well. And also to kind of, with the second point of your question as to how are we going to balance with our job scope, is just more of specific, especially for the MUSA offices, is more on the responsibility and accountability of each of the MUSA committee. We can do our best to implement rules and to maybe once a week, once in 2 weeks, to kind of check the quality control and prepare proper signage. But at the end, is to also trust the other MUSA committee members that they use the space well, and if they're not, we will also implement proper protocols after as well.
Okay. What are some potential obstacles that you anticipate during your role as the head of welfare? And what strategies do you intend to employ to overcome these?
I think one of the challenges that we will likely face with participation, I think that's consistently been an issue that we've seen, which is why we created a plan for visibility and had the few points that we went through that we would like to increase. Within working as head of welfare, I think it's the biggest challenge is always balancing between our own academic work and the responsibilities we have at MUSA. I think the best way to do that is organizationally. I think organizing time is the biggest way to combat that, as well as within our committee to have clear roles and responsibilities, as well as consistently checking in, I think even with each other to check in and say like, hey, are you doing okay? If there's too much of a workload, we can kind of cover for each other when needed.
And also with visibility of our welfare events is also not only just for a certain, like maybe if it's not only just women, but also men and different kind of members in that's Monash has. So like events that will not only cater to maybe something that only women would like, maybe we'll have events that also just a variety of different students, maybe from different schools or different clubs would be interested as well, would also be an obstacle, but we will our aim to improve on it.
Okay. As the division deals with sensitive topics, which might be also one of your obstacles, how would you handle this criticism that may come in your way and at the same time maintain and promote diversity and inclusion in Monash?
And sorry, could you repeat the first part of that question?
Because welfare division deals with a lot of sensitive topics and issues, right? So of course there will be criticisms and there will be obstacles during this. So how do you maintain and promote this diversity and inclusivity?
Are there any examples that you have for particular criticisms we might face or the places in which we might face them? Because I think when responding to criticism, it definitely is something that is individual to the situations. So they would be handled accordingly.
For us personally, I think could get hard trying to represent the entire Monash population. I guess that would be one of the biggest obstacles that we faced. I think that could serve as one of your examples as well regarding this, because there will always be people with opinions, especially coming internally and especially externally, since people have freedom of speech. So yeah, we would just like to ask what your
Okay, in terms of sensitivity and freedom of speech, it is an issue that we consider combating with respect. So the idea is that everybody does have their own opinions. We have many different people from many different groups, whether that's religion, culture, and all of those hold beliefs. And I think the idea is to foster respect, that regardless of your opinion, you are respecting each of the groups. And I think that's our main message. In terms of dealing with sort of more difficult responses from people, that would be there's sets of protocol listed out in the handbook that deals with, for example, if it's a case of sexual harassment or a case of someone being particularly racist or an issue of attacking somebody's religion. Those are things that we take our role as part of MUSA seriously, that we're a division, but we're also part of the association, and we are a voice for students to the university as well. So in terms of more serious issues, it will be taken to the university and the right protocols will be taken.
If it's just criticisms directly for us and for the welfare, of course, like any other committee, we will take a look at it if it's constructive feedback, if it's something that we can learn from and it's not just coming from a place of hate. if the feedback or the complaint is from hate, we can still kind of discuss it together and see if there's actually something from it that we can learn and to improve on it. And if it's a bigger kind of issue, we can always have a discussion during the meetings with our subcommittee staff as well to get their opinions, not just ourselves.
Okay, another question I have actually is, in your roles as heads of welfare, you are tasked to represent marginalized communities. These include LGBTQI communities, every type of marginalized communities. And how would you intend, do you have any specific plans you have for these groups?
So I think this pertains to how welfare has merged with women's and inclusivity being part of welfare now. So one of the things that we'd like to do is create community-specific shared digital spaces. So we have the specific reps, an LGBTQIA rep, a mental health rep. So I think the goal, a women's rep as well, and I think the goal with that is to create digital spaces where they can communicate within those groups, and we will have, committee members overseeing to combat any issues that might occur in the group. It also creates a way for feedback, and I think that kind of representation would be really beneficial to Monash for our communities here. So I think that's our main plan, as well as most of our events will follow the EDI structure. We aim to include diversity and inclusivity in everything that we do and open it up to everyone. And I think that is at the base of the message that we're trying to send.
Okay, on the topic of different groups, we want to ask about your consideration about Ensemble, which is also a club that we want to ask about your plans to collaborate with Ensemble, since they are also a club that works closely with these topics. So do you have any plans to work with them?
We would love to. So as set in manifesto, we want to increase collaboration with schools and clubs and societies. Of course, this includes Ensemble as well. We love them. And it's just a matter of fact of just proper discussion and proper planning and see if the event that we want to hold aligns with Ensemble's objectives and intentions as well. If it perfectly aligns, we would be open. I mean, Naomi and I would love to collaborate with them, as it, like what Shirley, you mentioned, that it really aligns with our aims of including LGBTQIA as well.
As you're supposed to be aware, there's something called WAC. How would you complete your roles as the WAC?
So WAC, this is the Welfare Affairs Committee that we will be part of, attending meetings as and when we need to, as well as taking issues to them if brought up to us. I think upholding that in terms of just the responsibility of showing up on time, being professional, and attending those committee meetings.
Do you have any plans for conducting WACs, or how are you going to proceed with this?
Personally, our current objective with that is just to kind of go through not just the MUSA training that will be provided for us, but also just to hear the rest of the committee out as well, not just us two, because we're still running for the position. So having to able to interact and to communicate with the committee as well will help us plan a further kind of objectives to have to further improve with it. Yeah.
Okay, because EDI Week and Wellness Week is considered to be some kind of flagship event, how are you going? What do you plan for these events? For each of these events, and what are your initiatives? And do you have any idea of how the whole day is gonna be?
So I think with my experience with MUVP, I have a really good idea of the way that we hold events on campus, all the administrative work, etc. In terms of actual ideas towards EDI Week, there are a lot of very good ideas that have been implemented, and we hope to continue, including the themed different days with different themes to focus on. I think we'd love to continue doing that.
For these events, for these events as well, we hope to just, with what we have previously mentioned in a previous answer, is just to diversify our audience and to welcome multiple, whether it be gender, race, background, further prioritizing inclusivity with these flagship events as well.
Okay. How do you encourage students to engage with the welfare services, especially to those who may be hesitant to seek help?
Sorry, could we have a minute to discuss, please? Okay. So for students that are hesitant to seek help, I think the best thing that we can do is create more visibility to our services and encourage them through our initiatives. So hopefully if there are students engaging in our welfare activities, it will be a discussion and encouraged to seek help if they need it. I think even during exam weeks when students are very stressed, it would be something to encourage the different options that they have. So again, I think this really connects to the idea of visibility. At the end of the day, seeking help is something that only the individual can do. So I think the priority would be to just publicize the options available to students here at Monash, whether that's counseling services, whether that's external organizations they can go to, or just encouraging conversation in general between the student population so people can reach out to their friends.
I think that for those who might not be actively engaging with like the physical events, students who are very introverted, who maybe are initially afraid to engage with us with events, campaigns, and activities, social media is always a very powerful platform to kind of reach out and connect with those people who are afraid to seek help, with social media and the publicity team to kind of create informational posts or a bit more that can touch on different types of things that people might seek help on. These kind of stuff will really encourage and reach out to a variety of people who might be a bit more shy.
As you know that we have our long-term partner, Naluri, for these kind of services. How would you maximize partnership between Naluri or our Monash own counseling services and stuff?
I think the first thing is that in any welfare initiative that we hold, in any event, to publicize their initiative as well, to include them, even with counseling services. Publicity is the main thing, so involving them in almost every event would be a really good way to show students that this is an option and this is a partnership that we have that they can go to.
And the most recent memory, I believe, with collaborating with them is in Wellness Week, where they were able to provide a quick test for students to just scan and do a quick test, and they're able to provide kind of advice right away. I think this kind of level of convenience and speed really increases the need of students to seek more help and to gain further assistance with not just a quick test, but also proper counseling as well.
Okay, since you are being, as MUSA representatives all over the place, actually, we are student representatives. So how do you plan to hear back from students? Do you have any plans for feedback, to hear feedback, because it would be very, very useful in your future initiatives and plans?
Yes, so I think with increasing avenues for feedback and channels of communication, this also links back to the shared digital spaces that we mentioned that are community specific. That will be one way that we can really gain some feedback from certain communities, as well as during events to have feedback channels. I think one of the ideas that we hope to implement is during snack pack giveaways that we hope to have in places like the Rock to have feedback forums, as well as our committee members actually engaging in conversation with other students to get that feedback.
Okay. Okay, one last question actually from us is that are there any gaps in the welfare support that you are currently trying to address? Anything that you probably noticed that you probably want to address?
I think a gap that I think that we would like to address is just more on how well prepared we are before each event, and things just like organizations, clear communication with our subcommittee members on how to kind of delegate and kind of how an event flows specifically. Just having all of us being well informed and having the communication channel with direct communication really helps with that. So that's what we plan. That's like the main thing that we planned for the future, is for any events, whether it be a flagship event, whether it be wellness mental health week, wellness week, just code red, snack packs, things like that, that each of us knows what to do beforehand and to set up and prepare well before the event starts.
I'd just like to add, I think we hope to have a more holistic approach to welfare, as well as just reaching outside of campus as well. So including having cards with safety numbers and emergency contacts that we can give away during orientation or through the week. So things that kind of spread outside just initiatives towards mental health or inclusivity, and something more practical towards students as well. And even during exam weeks, I know there is a snack that is given away, but I think the diversity of it to reach, for example, more male students more than female. So I think the recent snack packs have been more directed towards female participants, whereas we'd like to engage more with the whole student population.
Okay, I'm really sorry, but one more extra question, because you mentioned a bit about like being well prepared in your internal to be, when you do all of your initiatives. Can I just ask if there's any external gaps outside of the committee itself, like from Monash population or the university actually, that you want to improve as welfare officers?
In terms of gaps outside, are you talking about our interaction with Monash or with the student population?
As in the general student population, that maybe like, maybe you notice something is lacking or something needs improvement, like those kind of things, but it's not internal as in your committee, but as in like, the student population itself and Monash generally.
I think one of our main goals with being in welfare is to open that conversation with students. So I think the main aim is to get feedback from students. So it's something that changes or gaps will be understood and implemented based on the feedback that we get from students.
Yeah, I think that the gaps for a student population, obviously with just coming to campus and study, we will notice it, but they can be vague, that they can constantly change, and probably because we're not we're not in all of the marginalized community. That's why the visibility of like feedback forums and channels of communication really enables us to kind of see specifically what needs to be addressed and what needs to be improved on further.
Okay, that covers all of our questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Shirley and Sylvia. So now we'll be proceeding with the questions from the student community. So for those that have questions on the live stream, please feel free to raise your hand. We'll be passing the mic to you so that we can address your question to the candidate. Meanwhile, for those that are watching it through the live stream, if you have any questions, please feel free to put your questions inside the chat box. We'll be addressing on behalf of you. So if there's any questions from the live audience, is there any questions? No? Okay, then we will be proceeding to the questions on the live stream. So there are two questions, I believe. So the first question is, Monashans often face a heavy load of assignments, which can really affect their well-being. How would you keep students' well-being in check while keeping them engaged and interested?
So in terms of assignments, it is a heavy workload, and everybody does get stressed at different points in the semester. So our goal would be to do our best to have things that can help students. So in terms of during exam periods, having revision templates that we can send out that can point students in the right direction to organize their time a little bit better, as well as encourage them with all their options, such as talking to their lecturers if there are any issues that they might face, and publicizing other initiatives such as having the short extensions and making sure that all the students are aware of these things that they can do to organize their workload a little bit better.
Yeah, so to with our manifesto for the visibility of welfare services, periods like exam week that is more heavily loaded with stress and workload is a really good time for us to remind the student population that we have services that can aid them. We have things that we can assist as well. Things like snack packs, we aim to not just include snacks, but have things like stationery or something stress relieving that it can be small, but it's still something to help with the students as well. That's it.
All right, so moving on to the next question in the chat. If a minority group approached you both about facing discrimination on campus, what specific steps would you take to address this issue? And how would you make sure the process remains unbiased and fair for everyone involved?
I think the first step when someone approaches us like that would definitely be to care for their well-being. So the first thing would be to listen to them and understand what the situation was. And based on the gravity of the situation, different protocols will be taken. For example, if it's serious enough, we do have protocols listed out and actions to be taken against the individuals who are perpetuating such hateful messages.
So if we are approached with these kind of situations, like what Naomi said, there's protocols for this, like, for example, to remove the perpetrator at once to ensure that this doesn't continue and further negatively affects the person that is seeking help from us. But to also, we can never force or coerce them from kind of seeking help from the higher ups, but we can always remind them that these are things that they can do to kind of further providing them a platform to continue to help them.
I think as well as just reminding them that there are so many communities here that will welcome them. We're very lucky to be at Monash, which is extremely inclusive. So especially if it's a marginalized community, maybe with race, it can be something that they can be pointed towards certain clubs, certain societies that are very welcoming of them. And I think that can help mitigate the feelings that come with having something harsh being said to you pertaining to your race.
Okay. All right, so is there any other questions from the floor that's present with us today? If you have, please raise your hand and we'll be passing the mic to you. Meanwhile, for those that are on the live stream, if you do have any questions, please put it in the chat box. We'll be addressing on behalf of you. So probably give everyone probably a few seconds to put their questions if they have any. All right, I believe there's no questions from the audience. So now we'll be proceeding to the section for today, which is the closing statement from the candidates. So during this session, the candidates will summarize all the key points they have mentioned during the debating session and also tell the student community why they should vote for you.
So I would just like to start by thanking everyone here who watched us answering these questions and for all the questions that are being asked from you guys. And we believe that our hardworking and empathetic nature makes us particularly good candidates for this role. And if elected, we are committed to uphold the legacy of our current office bearers and prioritizing student welfare and inclusivity.
I would also like to thank everyone for attending and for all the hard work leading up to these sessions from the Election Commission, as well as Shirley and Sylvia. We would absolutely love the opportunity to make a difference, holding ourselves to a standard of hard work and active presence within the Monash community. I'd like to close on the thought that student welfare is not something predetermined. It is created by fostering a relationship between the student community and the department. It will be our pleasure to get to know you all and create a higher standard of welfare throughout Monash. Thank you.
All right, please give a round of applause to the candidates for Head of Welfare. So for the next session, it will be happening soon as well. It's going to be the Head of Clubs and Societies. They'll be happening around 3:30 p.m. So for live stream audience, please make sure to stay tuned for MUSA YouTube channel as well. It will be streamed there. And for a live stream audience, please feel free to come forward to Auditorium 2 because the debating session will be happening here physically. So if you want to ask any questions to the candidates personally in Auditorium 2, please feel free to do so. Meanwhile, that's the end for today's Head of Welfare debating session, and see you guys then.